Italian and Scottish researchers conducted advanced high-frequency radar mapping under Egypt's famous pyramids.
We have something beneath the soil of this pyramid.
For centuries, the Great Pyramid stood like a solved riddle, measured, mapped, and admired as a monument whose secrets were already spent. But a new kind of vision, born from physics rather than legend, is revealing hidden geometry behind the stone.
You can clearly see in the images that there is something there, and from what they've seen, you can kind of decipher yourself what...
To understand why this matters, we first have to confront a quiet assumption modern history got wrong. The blueprint was wrong. The Great Pyramid of Giza has long been treated like a finished puzzle, one whose edges have been smoothed by centuries of exploration, measurement, and confident storytelling. For most of the modern era, historians and archaeologists operated under the assumption that the pyramid's internal architecture had been fully mapped. Every corridor, chamber, and cavity was cataloged. What couldn't be accessed was estimated through logic and geometry, and the story we told ourselves was simple. We knew what was inside. But quietly, in labs and institutions far from the desert, that confidence was beginning to crumble. The turning point wasn't a lost scroll or a wild theory. It was a particle, tiny, invisible, and raining from the sky. Cosmic rays that pass through your body every second were being used to scan ancient stone. And when physicists began to apply this technology, muon radiography, to the Great Pyramid, the results were unexpected. What they saw did not fit the blueprint. In 2017, a team working under the ScanPyramids project released data that challenged everything. Using 3 different muon detection techniques, they revealed a space, unseen, unentered, and unexplained, tucked inside one of the most studied structures on Earth. This wasn't a minor miscalculation. It was a fundamental flaw in the map we thought was complete. The implications weren't just architectural, they were philosophical. Because if we were wrong about the layout, what else had we misunderstood? The void above the Grand Gallery. It began with a ripple of data, not a headline. In 2017, researchers scanning the Great Pyramid with muon detectors noticed an irregularity, an area where more particles slipped through than expected. This wasn't guesswork or ghost stories, it was physics. 3 separate systems, each based on distinct principles, confirmed the same anomaly, a massive air-filled void perched directly above the Grand Gallery. This discovery wasn't subtle. The void stretched at least 30 meters long, with a cross-section comparable to the Grand Gallery itself. It sat like a hidden mezzanine, unseen for over 4,000 years. Not a crack, not a niche, but a cavity of architectural significance. And that mattered, because if a space that large had gone undetected in the most scrutinized monument on Earth, the idea that we'd fully mapped it crumbled instantly. But what shook the scientific world wasn't just the void's size. It was the rigor behind the finding. Nuclear emulsion films, scintillator hodoscopes, and gas detectors, all independently aligned on the same shape, in the same place. This convergence gave the anomaly weight. No longer speculation, it became a fact that demanded explanation. Yet what purpose the void served remains unclear. No burial, no treasure, no markings. Just a silence so complete, it rewrote the rules of exploration. And for those listening closely, it whispered one undeniable truth. The pyramid wasn't finished speaking. The corridor behind the north face. Years after the void above the Grand Gallery was revealed, scientists turned their attention to the pyramid's most familiar face. Literally, the north side, home to the original entrance, had long been considered thoroughly studied. But one visual clue stood out, a curious formation of chevron-shaped limestone blocks above the entrance, long, suspected to be more than decorative. When researchers aimed their muon detectors at this zone, the results were anything but expected. The scans didn't reveal an ambiguous pocket or flaw. They showed a distinct corridor-shaped anomaly, roughly 5 meters long, with architectural dimensions too deliberate to be dismissed. The shape appeared repeatedly in data from multiple methods, including electrical resistivity, tomography, and advanced image fusion, which aligned different imaging sources to confirm the same geometry. This wasn't guesswork, it was convergence. Even more intriguing were the architectural features. The cavity had an unusual vaulted ceiling and a clear width that didn't match known internal passages. It sat barely a meter behind the outer surface, as if the pyramid had built a hallway in plain sight, then dared anyone to detect it. Why build a corridor so close to the entrance, then seal it completely? Was it symbolic, functional, a decoy? No one knows. But what is now certain is that this structure, once thought fully understood, is still revealing new layers. Not through myth, but through measurement. The ground speaks too. For years, the mystery of the Great Pyramid seemed confined to its walls and chambers, solid stone, carved corridors, and voids suspended in air. But once scanning technologies began producing consistent results above and within the structure, researchers turned their attention downward. If space could hide in stone, what might hide beneath it? Just west of the pyramid lies the Western Cemetery, a region that appears unassuming to most visitors. Low mounds of weathered rock, open shafts, and tomb remnants belonging to nobles and overseers from Khufu's reign. It was a landscape assumed to be thoroughly explored. Yet, when researchers applied ground-penetrating radar and electrical resistivity tomography, the earth beneath this burial field began to speak. The first anomaly emerged as a shallow, L-shaped structure buried just meters below the surface. Unlike natural voids or collapsed shafts, this formation had right angles and straight lines, features nature rarely produces unaided. To scientists, this signaled one thing: intent. The structure appeared to be backfilled or packed after construction, as though it had been deliberately hidden. Electrical resistivity scans supported the radar findings. Where solid stone offers one level of conductivity and loose sand another, this space behaved like a filled chamber, a constructed void, not a geological accident. Even more intriguing, it seemed to continue below the shallow L shape, hinting at a deeper, second layer or passage. While the data stops short of confirming a tomb or chamber, it suggests something was built here, then buried, erased from view but not from the ground's memory. This discovery reframes Giza itself. If hidden voids exist not only in the pyramid but also beneath the plateau, then the entire site transforms from a monument to a network. It raises new questions. Were surface tombs merely markers for deeper structures? Could this area conceal entrances, storage chambers, or ceremonial spaces designed for elite access alone? One thing became clear. The story of the Great Pyramid was never just vertical. It extends outward and downward, forming a hidden architecture of power, secrecy, and intention. Menkare's second entrance? While Khufu's pyramid has long dominated attention, the smallest of Giza's three main pyramids, Menkare's, has quietly harbored its own anomaly. At just over 60 meters tall, Menkare's structure often fades into the background, treated more like a footnote than a focal point. But in recent years, researchers began to question a peculiar detail: a patch of unusually polished granite on its eastern side, distinct from the weathered stone surrounding it. At first glance, the smoothness seemed decorative, perhaps a flourish or unfinished polish, but the placement was odd. Highly refined granite finishes are typically found around known entrances, not on flat, supposedly featureless walls. Why apply such effort where nothing important was meant to be seen? To test this curiosity, a suite of non-destructive imaging tools was deployed. Ground-penetrating radar revealed acoustic reflections behind the polished zone. Ultrasonic testing picked up subtle echoes indicative of air gaps. And electrical resistivity tomography, now a staple in pyramid exploration, showed conductivity signatures inconsistent with solid granite. When the scans were fused into a unified model, two distinct air-filled voids emerged. The first sat 1.44 meters behind the facade, measuring roughly 1 meter tall and 1.5 meters wide. The second lay just over a meter deep, slightly smaller but similarly deliberate in shape. These weren't random erosion pockets or chisel marks. They were empty spaces with definable geometry, concealed behind what now seemed less like decoration and more like a cover. Speculation followed swiftly. Could this be a sealed corridor, a ceremonial shaft, a second, intentionally hidden entrance? The evidence, while not conclusive, strongly hinted at something more than architectural coincidence. And the location, on the east side rather than the traditional north, challenged yet another assumption about pyramid design symmetry and symbolic alignment. Whatever lies behind Menkare's smooth granite panel, it reminds us of a larger truth. Even the parts of Giza we think we understand may be deliberately misleading. The question is no longer whether secrets remain, it's why they were hidden in the first place, and by whom. The twist. We might soon see inside. Until recently, the idea of peering inside the Great Pyramid, or any of its hidden voids, without causing damage was considered science fiction. Archaeologists have long walked a tightrope between exploration and preservation, hesitant to disturb ancient stonework without absolute necessity. But a breakthrough from an unlikely source may shift that balance for good. In 2022, a research team from Kyushu University in Japan achieved something remarkable. Using next-generation muon detectors, they managed to identify a dense metallic object, smaller than a shoebox, embedded deep within a solid concrete structure, designed to simulate ancient stone. The detectors didn't just reveal the presence of a cavity, they visualized what was inside it. The implications are enormous. For years, muography has been used to map voids in massive objects, from volcanoes to pyramids. But now, the technology can distinguish between materials of differing densities, potentially identifying stone, wood, metal, or even gold. This means researchers could one day not only confirm the presence of a corridor above the Grand Gallery, but also identify what it contains, without drilling, cutting, or entering at all. Imagine detecting ceremonial artifacts, construction tools, or metallic offerings sealed away for thousands of years, hidden behind layers of stone and silence. With further refinement, the same approach could be applied to the anomalies near Menkaur's polished granite, or the L-shaped structure beneath the Western Cemetery. It's not just about knowing that something is there anymore. It's about knowing what and why. And perhaps, most intriguingly, who was meant to see it, and who was not. The Great Pyramid was never just a tomb. It was a message, hidden in angles and echoed through stone. And now, as science brings that message into focus, the next step is ours. Share this story, subscribe for what's next, and join the search still unfolding beneath our feet.